Continuing our series about the sacrament of priesthood. Last time we started to speak about the order of priests, and we mentioned that there is some conditions mentioned in the Bible. Now, before we talk about the conditions, I'm going to ask the beloved deacons to tell me or raise your hand. Who of you wants to be a priest? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Raise your hand. 9. Okay, 9 out of 10. Okay, what about the others? What do you want to be when you grow up? A doctor? Okay. If you are thinking about being a priest, if you want to be a priest, if the ladies, the young girls, are thinking about their brothers or their relatives to be priests, there is some conditions. There is something you have to have in order to be chosen by God first to be a priest. Those conditions are mentioned in the Bible. The Lord does not take or does not leave us just like that. There is some conditions mentioned in the Bible, especially our teacher St. Paul. He mentioned them in his first epistle to his disciple Timothy, the bishop, chapter 3, and also in his epistle to his disciple Titus, and he was also a bishop, chapter 1. Those conditions our teacher St. Paul mentioned to them concerning how to choose or what the bishop should be. The bishop, not the priest. But since the work of the priest and the work of the bishop is almost the same except some little difference, so the conditions that apply on choosing a bishop is also applying on choosing a priest. Now we want to know if those conditions are in me, are in you, or we need to work on them in order for us to be ready for the call of God to any one of us. What are those conditions? Number 1, we're going to mention from what we learn from the Bible. Number 1, blameless, commended by others. You have to be blameless. Of course, there is no one without sin. We know that. But if your sins are very obvious to the others, if your sin are hindering or an obstacle to others to see Christ in you, that's a no. So you should be blameless, without blame. Number 2, husband of one wife according to the first divine law. Now, the priest in our Coptic church is a married person. How many wives? Are you sure? 1 wife. According to the first divine law. What is the first divine law? God, when He created Adam, He gave him one Eve. Not one evening, one Eve. He didn't give him 2. He didn't give him 3. Not even 4. But 1. God can create many, right? But He chose to give him only 1. This is the first divine law. So he should be a husband of 1 wife according to the first divine law. Number 3. What we call, or what the Bible, or what St. Paul is saying, sober-minded, means not lazy. Not lazy. Just means he loves to be just with others. Holy. Self-controlled. He can control himself. Now if you tell me, oh, Abuna, I can control my anger. Very good. But I can't control, eating certain kind of food. I can't fast. So there is no self-control. So it's a no, no, no. I have to have self-control in many aspects. We are not going to speak about it now. Number 4, the person who wants to be a priest, he has to be modest. What is the meaning of modesty? Anybody knows? Modest means? Yes? Honest? Not exactly. Humble? Yes, close. Means simple. Modest means simple. So he has to be characterized by his simplicity in all things. The same principle must apply to his wife and children, who must be modest, simple, not known for their disobedience, and not a cause of stumbling for others. What about the 5th condition that St. Paul said? Hospitable to strangers. He has to be hospitable to strangers, merciful with the poor and needy who are brethren of the Lord. He has to have compassion. He has to have love to welcome people and to give the poor and the needy. Number 6. As a priest, he has to be able to teach. As a priest, he has to be able to teach. Of course, it is a grace from God, but without it, the service in the church will be hindered. He has to be a teacher. No matter how he can teach, by words, by action, by example, it is all good. But he has to teach his congregation. Because as a priest, it's known that he's a teacher and must explain the word of truth rightly. He has to be well learned in the Holy Scriptures, in the Holy Bible. And he has to nourish his congregation by sound orthodox doctrines. Number 7, from the conditions that we choose the priests upon, is not given to wine. What does this mean? In the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, it is said, wine is a mocker, intoxicating drink arouses brawling, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise. Means, if the person likes to drink wine or spirits too much, he is not fit to be a priest. Because as the book of Proverbs mention, those kind of drinks will make you not wise. Number 8, not violent. For a priest must gather people through fatherly love, not dominate them by terror. And violence here has a lot of meaning. For example, I cannot beat up a person in my congregation, even if I can, but I can't. It is not right. It's not lawful. It is not good. I don't fight with someone. Fight means being violent. It is not right. It is not good. So if you have this thing in you now that you like to fight, you like to be violent with others, you have to know that you have to correct that. You have to know that you have to change that. You have to know that you have to work on that in order for God to choose you to be a priest. Number 9, not greedy for money. Not greedy for money. The priest must not care or strive in collecting money for himself, for any reason. Again, the person who is being a priest or chose to be a priest must not care or strive in collecting money for himself by any means. For in so doing, if he is doing this, he degrades himself among the people and leads himself to serve the rich and disregard the poor. Hence, his service is unacceptable before God and blamed by people who will spread rumors against him. And this will destroy the dignity of priesthood. For as St. Paul mentioned to St. Timothy, those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which draw men in destruction and perdition. For the lover of money is a root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So the person has to be modest and not looking to be rich, but satisfied with what God give him. Number 10. Like his master Jesus Christ, he must be gentle, not quarrelsome. For Christ, it was mentioned about him, will not quarrel nor cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. Now, my question is to those who raise their hands. Does the people or do the people outside hear your voice in the streets? Do the people around you in your neighborhood hear your voices in your own home? Does the people in the church hear you when you talk loudly, screaming? This is a no, no, no. You have to change that. Number 11. He must rule his own house well. The person who wants to be a priest, he must rule his own house well. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how will he take care of the church of God? For the house is a small church, and the father is the head of the family, and its first provider and guardian. If you don't know how to take care of your own house, how are you going to be a priest who takes care of the congregation, the house of God? If he runs his household efficiently, and his family live in a fear of God, fulfilling the biblical commandments and church teachings, his family will become content, and so he will prove his ability as a leader, which is an important quality for a successful priest. His children also should be obedient and revering, for children are a mirror image of their parents and proof of their ability or inability for correct ecclesiastical, evangelical, and Christian upbringing. If the children live righteously in obedience to their parents, holding fast Christian principles as they have learned from their parents, this is a proof of the success of their father who is being recommended for priesthood. As it was mentioned in the epistle to Titus, having faithful children not accused of dissipation or insubordination. The last condition for the person to be chosen as a priest, number 12, he must be faithful and not puffed up with pride. He must be known and experienced in his service in the church. He must be able to carry the yoke of Christ humbly and patiently, so that he does not fall into condemnation and become a stumbling block in the service, but rather contribute to its growth and progress. He must be a source of comfort and joy for the people, rather than a cause of worry. He must bring people back to the church instead of driving them away. Now, if you find those conditions, or at least some of them, in you, congratulations, you are on the right track. If you find some of them are not there, if you find that you need to work on some of them, go ahead and do it. I encourage all of you to go ahead and work on it. Look in the future and see yourself. Look in the future and imagine yourself. What you want to be. I know that all of you wants to be successful in your life. Doctors, engineers, teachers, accountants, lawyers, and so on and so forth. But the question that I start with, do you want to be a priest? So you have those 12 conditions you have to work on in order for you to be eligible in front of the eyes of God to be a priest. To him is due all glory now and forever unto the ages of all ages. Amen.